Hey, what's going on? It's Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com. Today, we're breaking down the 2019 Iron Bowl. It's here. Alabama traveling on the road to take on the Auburn Tigers at Jordan-Hare. We got you covered the entire game preview in this video. Stay with us as we provide key points to this game taking place Saturday at Jordan-Hare Stadium. We lead off talking about the Vegas odds. Everybody knows that Vegas knows all. And right now, Alabama's a 2.5-point favorite against Auburn. What do you think about that? Alabama, 10-1 overall and 6-5 against the spread this season. Auburn, 8-3 overall in the season, but 3-7-1 against the spread this season. 5-2 against the spread at home, though. ESPN, the current matchup predictor, has Alabama with a 65% chance to win this game. Very high chances. Series history. Alabama leads the all-time series, 46-36 with one tie. The two teams have split the last two meetings. In Tuscaloosa last season, Alabama won 52-21. Auburn beat Alabama at Jordan-Hare back in 2017, 26-14. Now, I think in this game, it's all going to come down to this. Alabama's offense against Auburn's defense. Can Mac Jones, who's now the quarterback at Alabama, lead Alabama's offense past one of the best defenses in all of college football? We're about to find out. Can Mac Jones win the big game on the road? We're about to find out. And I think what we're going to see from Steve Sarkisian's offensive game plan is what we've seen in the past couple weeks under Mac Jones. And that's his ability to get the football out on quick type screens to these electric wide receivers. For example, this last game, Mac Jones hit Devontae Smith, let him do the rest of the work. Same thing with Jalen Waddle. And you got to get the ball out to Alabama's NFL future wide receivers and let them make plays in one-on-one coverage, right? On the season, Devontae Smith, 60 receptions, 1,100 yards with 13 touchdowns. He's been on fire. Jerry Jeudy, 66 receptions, 933 yards with 9 touchdowns. Henry Ruggs, 620 yards, 6 touchdowns, and Jalen Waddle with 28 receptions for 450 yards. Now, Najee Harris could play a monster role in this game. 942 yards on the season with 10 touchdowns, and his ability to make plays out of the backfield has really been dynamic over these last 3 to 4 games. You got to get Najee Harris the football. I understand Auburn's defensive line, their linebackers are built to stop the run, but I think Najee Harris has to play a pivotal role in this game. Alabama comes into this game scoring 48.5 points per game. That's second nationally. And they're passing the football right now, 343 yards per game. That's third nationally. They're still putting up yards with Mac Jones at the quarterback position. Now let's look at Auburn's defense. One of the top defenses in all of college football. Number 14 actually in the country, allowing 306 yards per game and allowing just 4.8 yards per play. That's outstanding. Allowing just 16.2 points per game. Number 18 run defense in the country, 3.2 yards per carry. Number 28 in pass defense, 196 yards per game. Another outstanding note. Allowed just 21 to Oregon, 21 against Texas A&M, 24 against Florida, 23 against LSU, and 21 against Georgia. Think about that for a second. Their defense allowed just 23 against LSU in that final score. What was it? 23-20. And against Georgia, that score was 21-14. So they lost to LSU and to Georgia by a combined 10 points. Auburn's team overall are very good, and their defense is a big reason why. Overall, Pro Football Focus grade out 92.7, 93.7 against the run, and 91.0 against the pass. Now for the Auburn Tigers, it starts up front. Derek Brown, 6'5", 318-pound senior defensive tackle, 82.5 PFF grade out against the run, 90.4 grade out in pass rush, 42 tackles on the season with 4 sacks. Derek Brown, one of the top players in all of college football on the defensive side of the football. 6'3", 278-pound Marlon Davidson. He's also a senior defensive end, 87.6 PFF grade in pass rush. He has 11.5 tackles for a loss, 6.5 sacks this season. Another key player up front, KJ Britt, who's an inside linebacker, 91.7 PFF grade against the run, 8.5 tackles for a loss this season, 3.5 sacks. He's 6 foot, 236 pounds. He's a junior. A lot of these Auburn players on the defensive side are upperclassmen, and I think that experience overall bodes well for them weekly. Now let's look at the Auburn secondary. It starts with safety Jeremiah Denson, 90.8 PFF grade in coverage, 69 tackles, leads the team, 2 interceptions, 6 foot, 190 pounds, also a senior. Daniel Thompson, he's a senior, 5'11", 209 pounds, 71.5 grade out on PFF, 60 tackles on the season. At the corner position, watch for Javarius Davis, 80.5 in coverage, 6 pass deflections, 5'10", 180 pounds. So when you look at this Auburn defense overall, a lot of upperclassmen, hard hitters, playmakers, very stingy defense. Now it's important to note, defensive back Jameen Sherwood will be suspended for the first half of the Iron Bowl. He's not a starter, but he is a key contributor, so let's note that going forward. Now let's look at Auburn's offense, which is led by true freshman quarterback Bo Nix. 2,100 yards on the season, 14 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Twice on the season, he's thrown for over 300 yards. Once was against Mississippi State. The second time was against Ole Miss. Auburn has 2 running backs that they like to go to. DJ Williams we've seen more of in the later part of the season. He has 371 yards with 2 touchdowns. Whitlow has 625 yards. Williams had 130 yards rushing against LSU. Seth Williams, definitely their go-to guy. Interesting note with Seth Williams, he went to high school at Paul Bear Bryant High School, which is just outside of Tuscaloosa, Alabama. On the season, he has 52 receptions, 735 yards with 8 touchdowns. He's definitely Bo Nix's key target, especially in clutch situations. It'll be interesting to see him go up against Trayvon Diggs or Patrick Surtain going forward on Saturday. Auburn's offensive line, they've allowed just 16 sacks on the season. Now let's look at Alabama's defense. I know they don't get a ton of credit, but look at these numbers. Number 10 in scoring defense, allowing just 16.2 points per game, just 10 points in their last 2 games. Yeah, I know it's Mississippi State and Western Carolina, but still only 10 points. Held 5 opponents this season to less than 10 points on the year. Those are some notable numbers. Number 33 overall in the country in rush defense. They've only allowed 130 yards per game. Number 13 in the country in pass defense, allowed 184 yards per game. Those are great numbers for any defense, and especially a defense that doesn't get a lot of credit like Alabama. Now, in the secondary, they're led by Xavier McKinney, and I think he's a guy who's starting to trend upward, play like a future player in the NFL draft. 77 tackles on the season with 3 interceptions. Terrell Lewis has 30 tackles on the season. He's the guy that's going to put pressure on Bo Nix. 10.5 tackles for a loss this season with 6 sacks. And Anthony Jennings, his senior on this team, the alpha male, 67 tackles overall, 12 tackles for a loss, 7.5 sacks this season. Now their interior linebackers going to be Shane Lee and Christian Harris. Both of those guys are true freshmen. We've talked about those guys a lot this year. Shane Lee has 70 tackles on the season. I think he's built to stop a team like Auburn, being that he likes to hit the hole hard. He can come downfield. Now, he does struggle in pass coverage, but I think in a game like this, you want Shane Lee at inside linebacker. I'm really curious to see what happens against Auburn, being that Raekwon Davis is probably questionable going in with a high ankle sprain against the Auburn Tigers. He's Alabama's 6'7", 315-pound defensive end. Now, if he cannot go against Auburn, look for Christian Barmore, who's a redshirt freshman, to really step up. Now, Barmore is playing at a very high level, has a very high motor on the season. He has 22 tackles, 5 tackles for a loss with 2 sacks, and really a guy that a lot of people want to see start actually over Raekwon Davis. Christian Barmore is a name to know if you're the Auburn Tigers offensive coordinator. He could have a very big game, very big impact in this game. The corners, as you know, very good. Trayvon Diggs and Patrick Surtain. On the season, they have 14 combined pass deflections with 5 interceptions. Now let's look at this matchup. Nick Saban versus Gus Malzahn. Saban has won 4 out of these 6 meetings between these two. And as much as Auburn wants Gus Malzahn out of Auburn, he has beat Nick Saban head-to-head twice. And you know what another win over Nick Saban would do for Gus? It would keep him eating at the Waffle House after games, because there is no way that Auburn fires Gus Malzahn if he beats Nick Saban for the 3rd time. Gus beat Nick Saban back in 2013 and again in 2017. Both of those games were at Jordan-Hare Stadium. So what's at stake for these two teams going forward? Well, for the Alabama Crimson Tide, it's a shot to make the college football playoffs. This game is basically a playoff play-in game for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Granted, LSU continues to win out and runs the table in the SEC. So to keep it simple, if LSU wins the SEC title and they beat Georgia and Alabama beats Auburn, Alabama has a strong shot to be that 4th team taken by the committee in the college football playoffs. What does it mean for Auburn this game? Well, besides bragging rights, it's going to tell us if Auburn is going to have a new coach next season. A lot of people want Gus Malzahn out, as we just talked about. So if Gus is unable to beat Nick Saban, look for Auburn to start having a coaching search through the early part of December. And of course, bragging rights on the line, but that's what's at stake for these two teams. Hey, we want to hear from you in the comment box. When you're looking at this game overall, what do you think will be the keys to the game? What do you think will be the determining factors on if Alabama wins and if Auburn wins? We want to hear from you in the comment box. Stay with BamaInsider.com all this week as we continue to bring you coverage of the 2019 Iron Bowl between Alabama Crimson Tide and the Auburn Tigers. Reporting from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Kyle Henderson, BamaInsider.com.